In the previous part, Lloyd successfully reclaims control of the Marshall's wetlands. However, from an administrative standpoint, the northern regions fall under Viscount Lacona's authority, while the southern part is under Baron Frontera's jurisdiction. It was inevitable for Lacona to stake his claim on the wetlands once they were restored. He aimed to acquire valuable, fertile land without making any efforts of his own. When the knight informs Lloyd that this land belongs to Viscount Lacona, Lloyd is incensed and firmly requests the knight to refrain from speaking between nobles, shocking everyone present. Identifying himself as Lloyd Frontera, the son of Baron Frontera, Lloyd disregards Viscount Lacona's request to meet his father, knowing the Viscount's prior knowledge of his unrefined behavior. Displeased by Lloyd's dismissive attitude, the Viscount confronts him, questioning if he is deaf. In response, Lloyd compares the Viscount's words to the buzzing of a bothersome fly, prompting Lacona to search for the source. To everyone's surprise, the knight reveals that Lloyd was referring to the Viscount himself, provoking his anger, employing the Land Act of the Kingdom, Title 321, which grants special exemptions for developing abandoned land. Lloyd enlightens the Viscount about the law. According to this regulation, if a piece of land remains unused for over a century and undergoes development resulting in at least one crop harvest specified by law, the developer becomes the rightful owner. Javier realizes that Lloyd's request to plant seeds earlier was in accordance with this law. Lloyd, sarcastically congratulating the Viscount for witnessing the initial harvest, has already prepared for his arrival beforehand. Conceding defeat, Lloyd presents the Viscount with the first yield, and demands him to vacate the land with a stern expression. Frustrated and devoid of a valid argument, Lacona decides to depart with his men. Javier asks Lloyd if he hears a prophecy from somewhere that they were coming. Lloyd tells him that he has already dealt with people in the oaths just like him. The leech is trying to steal someone else's hard work. The workers raise their hands and were praising Lord Lloyd, who saved them from another crisis. Lloyd makes a bad face and tells the worker to work there quietly. After some days, there were heavy rains pouring on the Marshall's wetlands. Lloyd was inspecting the working of the drainage system from a distance. They have also made a water wheel for better drainage, but still, he has to see to it that there is no problem in the drainage system. Javier joins Lloyd and lifts an umbrella to his head. After some time, the dark clouds vanished, and the drainage system built by him was working really well. The system informs him that this was a monumental achievement in construction, and he has left an indelible mark in the history of civil engineering on the Lower Asia continent. As a result, he has been awarded a large amount of RP. Also, his skills have been upgraded to the next level. Lloyd stands up and receives more notifications of the approval rating, with the Baron, Baroness, Javier, and other townspeople risen. Lloyd was very happy and proud of his achievement, and now thinks of starting the next stage. In the Lacona Viscounty, Viscount Lacona seethes with anger upon learning that the land has been entirely reclaimed, realizing the loss of what was once half his own territory. The Marshall's wetlands, now under Lloyd's control, promise to yield substantial benefits. Fuming with envy, the Viscount instructs a servant to summon the overseer of his dye workshop. Days later, Lloyd awakens at his mansion feeling weighed down but remains committed to going to work. Despite his own heavy head, he informs Javier of his plans. Noticing Javier's fatigue, Lloyd inquires about it, only to realize that both he and Ms. Emily, the estate maid, are suffering from severe headaches. The entire town, including livestock, experiences debilitating headaches, and animals avoid the water source. Lloyd suspects the water is tainted, linking it to the Ladona berry used in dye production, an association that infuriates him, directed at the Baron's mansion. The Viscount's knight holds a meeting with the Baron, demanding the return of the Marshall's wetlands in exchange for halting the discharge of dye waste into the main river. The Baron reacts with irritation, accusing the knight of blackmail. Unfazed, the knight confirms the accusation, leading the Baron to erupt in anger. Threatening legal action, the Baron warns of court proceedings, but the knight counters, revealing the prolonged legal process and financial implications, forecasting bankruptcy for the Baron. As the knight prepares to depart, the Baron asserts that his son and associates have invested considerable effort into the land and refuses to cede it to individuals he considers beneath him. The knight bows down with a smirk on his face and was about to leave the room, but instead, he gets hit hard on his face as Lloyd opens the door. Lloyd tells the Baron about the condition of the townspeople, and also tells him that the neighboring Viscounty has been tampering with the river water, and he had come there to discuss the countermeasures for it. Lloyd is shocked as the knight comes yelling at him from behind. He was unaware that there was someone in the room other than them and taunts the knight. The knight was furious and draws his sword and asks Lloyd for a duel, but he was easily destroyed by Lloyd with the help of his iron shovel, just like in the good old days. Lloyd keeps on beating the knight. It seemed like the Baron was also enjoying the duel. At the Viscounty, Lacona is furious with his knight as he returns with a beat-up face. The knight asked for his forgiveness, but instead he is surprised, as Lacona tells him that he did a very good job getting all beat up. Now they can use this in the court and make a very cruel face. Lloyd in the barony knew what he was thinking, and out of habit, he makes the same face. Lloyd tells the soldiers that they will blow them out of water soon and cheers everyone. He plans to solve their drinking water problems first. They made a pool and got him on to bring in all the water needed. Now that the drinking water problem is solved temporarily, Lloyd tells Javier that they define some permanent alternative and tells him that they will construct a water supply system to bring in water from Lake Kapua in the eastern mountains. But the distance is enormous, and due to this, they will face a huge loss. But Lloyd tells him that he has other plans to make sure that they will get enough money to complete the construction. This time it will be 10, no 100 times profit. Several months later, Viscount Lacona finds himself visibly distressed about an issue. His servant informs him of the arrival of Baron Frontera's eldest son. The Count, agitated, initially demands they be kicked out. However, the servant persists, insisting that the visitor aims to aid the Viscount with his ongoing troubles. Eventually, albeit reluctantly, the Count agrees to meet Lloyd, questioning his intentions. Lloyd bluntly states his purpose, offering assistance to resolve the Viscount's predicament. Despite the Viscount's attempts to conceal the matter, Lloyd, wearing a telling expression, prompts him to be honest and asserts that he can salvage the dye workshop's situation. This revelation irks the Viscount, who already suspects Lloyd's involvement from the outset. Explaining the repercussions of the wastewater dumped into the water supply, Lloyd discloses the immense losses suffered, including the need to source water from Lake Kapua. The Viscount, impatient, interjects, demanding Lloyd to get to the point swiftly, detailing a large valley encountered during construction and the subsequent accidental coverage of the valley floor with limestone. Lloyd reveals that this mishap led to the exposure of limestone bedrock, affecting the water flowing towards the Viscount's dye workshop. The Viscount, now more furious, questions the connection to his workshop. Lloyd elucidates how the lime in the water corrupted the dyeing vats, further infuriating Lacona, who threatens legal action at the royal court. Lloyd tells him he can do as he pleases, but it will take at least 2 years for the verdict. Until then, everybody will forget about the Ladona dyes, or someone else might just undertake his spot. The Viscount was now getting really worried about his future. Lloyd gets up from his couch and tells the Viscount that all his queries have now been answered and he must leave now. The Viscount is furious and threatens Lloyd that he will make him pay the damages many times over. As Javier and Lloyd were walking, Javier asks Lloyd if there is something that he did not understand there. Lloyd asks him what was it. Javier tells him that Lloyd has now provoked the Viscounty to the court and he will fight until the bitter end. Also, he has many connections at the capital, and it will also ensure that they will suffer a huge loss if they try to fight it legally. Lloyd interrupts him with an amused scoff, confidently telling Javier to just wait and watch how this will play out. 1 month later at the Baron's mansion, the once arrogant Viscount was pathetically on his knees, desperately pleading for Lloyd to show mercy and save his precious dye workshop. Lloyd can't resist taunting him, gleefully asking whatever happened to all those supposed strong connections of his in the royal court. The Viscount tells him woefully that it was his own arrogance which had blinded him so, and he is deeply regretful of what he did. Lloyd callously responds that he has no interest in the Viscount's useless words or apologies. He bluntly asks what the Viscount plans to actually do here and now. Seeing his weak position, the Viscount breaks down further, sobbing and groveling at Lloyd's feet. He shamelessly begs, offering up all his noble pride in exchange for Lloyd's mercy. Lloyd ruthlessly drives the knife deeper, asking if the Viscount's foolish pride is even worth 1/10 of the price of a mere gold coin at this point. The Viscount tells him desperately that even so, he would readily sell his worthless pride 10,000 times over if it meant receiving Lloyd's mercy. Lloyd indifferently responds that it's not an apology he wants, but rather just a small signature on a simple contract he's drafted up. Lloyd coolly explains that if the Viscount signs, he will magnanimously restore the crucial water supply to the Viscount's dye workshop within a week. When Lacona reads over the ruthless terms, however, he is utterly horrified and furious. He heatedly tells Lloyd that the egregious price and demands in the predatory contract are far too much to possibly accept. Lloyd interrupts him and tells him that he was the one who taught him that water was not free. Lacona had no choice but to sign the contract. After the meeting, Lloyd hands over the contract to the Baron. The Baron was shocked when he sees such a large sum of money he would get every month from the Lacona Viscounty. Lloyd assured him that there is no problem with the contract, as the generous Viscount signed it by himself. Javier thinks of Lloyd as the devil who is going to torture Lacona to his very end, as he did not specify and date or time of the contract. The Baron tells Lloyd that he has some good news for him, but he stops as he sees the terrifying face of Lloyd. Lloyd tells him that it was nothing, and he was just happy with the contract. The Baron continues and tells Lloyd that the old beat-up treasure they received from the Orc tribe, Count Kremos sends his word that he will purchase it at a handsome price. Lloyd finds it strange as a big shot like him is trying to purchase brand new ones, and still he is going for the old beat-up artifacts. The Baron tells him that he didn't know the details, but he only knows that there is a huge statue Count wants to construct in the Kremo City of Commerce. Count Kremo is having a view of the vast ocean from his castle, and out of nowhere, a huge lobster-type creature which was named Gigantitan comes out of the water, which scared the Count. At the mansion, Javier informs the Baron that they will be leaving for Kremo after the work on the water supply is finished, and also tells him that Lloyd will have just 10 men with him during the journey. The Baron tells him that he understands him. Javier tells him not to worry about him, as he will watch over him closely. The Baron tells him when in the past Viscount Lacona came to take half of the reclaimed wetlands. If it was in the past, the Baron would have been terrified and simply handed it over. But after watching Lloyd's efforts, he found some courage of his own. Javier tells him he was the kindest and warmest person, more so than anyone else. The Baron appreciates the kind words and tells him that even so, it does not make him a good leader. A good leader should have the qualities just like Lloyd right now. Javier thinks of Lloyd as the money-making monster. The Baron tells Javier that his mission is no longer to monitor Lloyd, and from now on he is assigned to protect Lloyd, the heir of the land. Javier accepts this with pride, but he still has some doubt in his mind regarding Lloyd. We see a flashback to when Javier was just a kid. The Baron asks Javier what did he want to become when he grew up. Javier tells him that he will become a knight and protect his lord. The Baron thanks him and tells him that one day he will become the world's strongest knight. And later he gave a wooden sword which he had carved by himself, but it was broken by the young Lloyd. To this day, Javier vividly remembers that fateful incident. As he would serenade Lloyd to sleep with a soothing lullaby each night, Javier found genuine contentment, his mind drifting to fond memories. And in the stillness of the darkness, both men resting peacefully. But one night, danger lurked right outside their window. A shadowy figure crept in, weapon aimed at the unsuspecting Lloyd. Sensing the malicious intent, Javier reacted in a flash, grabbing his sword and lunging at the attacker. With adept skill, he disarmed the threat single-handedly. Later, Javier updated Lloyd that he had handed the assailant over to Viscount Lacona for punishment. Javier suspected the bitter Viscount, financially crippled from Lloyd's water contract, and perhaps having fired his knight, sought petty revenge for his misery. But Lloyd seemed nonplussed by the attempt on his life. Javier questioned Lloyd's lack of caution, and learned that Lloyd had utter trust in Javier's protection, dismissing all potential danger because of that faith. This confession left Javier stunned and deeply moved. In fact, Javier's popularity rose 15 points. The next day, with construction completed, they prepared to depart for Kremo. Exhausted, Lloyd dozed off on his horse, so caring Javier decided to carry him instead. But when Lloyd was jolted awake abruptly, he interrogated Javier, accusing him of causing the rough awakening. After a brief spat, all was well again with the odd duo. Jumping off the horse, Lloyd requests Javier to teach him horse riding. In an unexpected turn, the system alerts Lloyd about the rapid spread of rumors regarding his groundbreaking creation of the first waterworks on the continent. His reputation as an engineer skyrockets, destined to be etched in the construction history of the kingdom and the continent. As a result, he receives a substantial amount of recognition points. Lloyd was really proud and starts to laugh, but Javier thinks that he has lost his mind. As he is angry one minute and starts to laugh the other, the journey to Cremo was not a short one. As they approached winter, drew near, and they finally reached Cremo. By the midwinter's count, Cremo gives Lloyd a warm welcome to the county and introduces himself. Both Javier and Lloyd bow down to the count and greet him. The count was quite surprised at Lloyd's appearance, having imagined an engineer would look much more refined. But Lloyd had an unexpectedly noble bearing that contrasted the count's expectations. Mistaking Javier as the famed engineer instead, the count approached him with a marriage proposal to his daughter. Lloyd frantically tried to interject, but was ignored. When he finally interrupted forcefully, the count reacted angrily at the perceived impertinence. It took some time before the count grasped that the real Baron's son was in fact Lloyd. Quite the embarrassing mix-up. He slipped it off jokingly while asking Lloyd's forgiveness. But Lloyd was utterly dejected at the insult, made worse by the count's blunt remark that he had been born with a servant's face. Ouch! The system taunting Lloyd only twisted the knife deeper. This Count Cremo had played a pivotal role during the infamous Night of Blood and Iron, when Javier became a wanted man for beheading some moneylenders. Javier hid from execution for a while thanks to the Count secretly providing resources and support despite arresting him. In the present day, the Count confided his strange plan to build an statue out in the ocean using the artifacts they brought. Lloyd curiously asked why a sea statue. The Count explained that trade in Cremo had severely declined recently after a monstrous Gigatitan appeared in their waters. Fear of this beast was scaring all the merchant ships away. Lloyd recalled this same crisis occurring in the novel too. The rampaging Gigatitan had brought Cremo's economy to its knees back then. But the Count seemed to have little memory of those exact details. The Count tells him that he has done a lot of research and discovered that the mermaids are the strongest warriors who rule over the seas. And the mermaids are the objects of fear for the Gigatitan, and that's why he was going to build a statue of the mermaid to obstruct fear on the Gigatitan. But the Count has already given up on this idea as they have to increase the height of the seabed for the base of the statue, and due to this, the ships will not have enough space. But still, he will buy the artifacts as promised. Lloyd tells him that he can build a base without disturbing the water levels. Just like that, we see Lloyd and Javier on a boat surveying the seabed. Due to the winter, Lloyd's eyes burned on his face, and Javier had a smirky look on his face. So, Lloyd asked him, why did he look so happy? Javier tells him that it's the first time that watching someone suffer has made him happy. Lloyd was depressed due to the cold. Javier asks him if he had checked all the details of the contract, and if it was going to happen to build up the ground vertically from the seabed unless they are going to use some kind of magic. Lloyd tells him it was possible with the magic of cement. But the question was, how is he supposed to make cement? As they reach the port, a beautiful girl asks him if he was Master Lloyd, and she wants to give him a letter. Lloyd was confused. The girl tells them that she is Christine, and she was the daughter of the Count. And the day before she saw Lloyd walking in the courtyard and asks him to accept the letter. But instead of giving it to Lloyd, she offers it to Javier instead. Lloyd was devastated, but he already thought that this was going to happen. Javier takes the letter and puts it into his coat. The girl was happy and runs away cheerfully. Lloyd was furious. Javier tries to go away, but Lloyd asks him what was this. He was really frustrated, and Javier asks him what was wrong with that, and asks him if he had not received a letter before. It was right on the spot, and Javier is shocked and confused about what was he supposed to say. He sincerely wishes Lloyd the best of luck, returns to his dome, and is visibly not jealous because he is going to make a lot of money and be rich. He was interrupted by Cremo. Lloyd quickly puts up a happy face, and Cremo informs him that he has bought all the important materials he asked for, but he was unable to fetch the volcanic ash. Lloyd thinks a bit, as volcanic ash is necessary for the Roman-style cement due to its durability. The Count tells him that if he needs volcanic ash, he will have to wait 1.5 years, and he cannot afford that long. Lloyd assures the Count that he will find another way. He thinks of it and figures out that he has to make the Portland cement, but he was unable to remember the ingredients for it. He has now tried 130 different types of mixture, but he is unable to create the Portland cement. As he was working tirelessly, all three of them watched him and were sad, because due to his work, he was not able to pay attention to them. They all jump on him and try to get his attention, and he yells at them. In his past life, he had a dog pet, but he was unable to give it as much time, and one day it died, and he regrets it to this day. Lloyd finally takes all of them and gives them a tight hug and takes them out for a walk. The three of them were really happy. Lloyd thinks of himself as he was an awful person and asks them for his forgiveness, as he was only using them as heavy machinery. He kneels down and thanks them for their help. The mystical creatures acknowledged his sincere feelings, and they considered him a family, which enabled him a new upgrade to one of them. Podong and Hammond tell Lloyd to use the skill on Band Ghoul, and Lloyd uses the skill on Band Ghoul. A light show begins, and with a huge light, the screen informs him that Bang Ghoul has gained a new skill, Volcanic Blast. Lloyd is really happy, as it is just what he needs to make cement. Later that day, a huge explosion occurred near the Count. Everybody was shocked. Even the Count peeked from the window. The explosion let out a huge cloud of volcanic ash. It was Lloyd and Javier who were testing the new ability of Band Ghoul. Lloyd was happy to see the ash and tells Javier, but Javier was unable to hear anything. Lloyd tells Javier that he was ugly, and Javier replied that he was not ugly as Lloyd. And now, thanks to Bangalore, construction can be really possible. The first stage was to build and install a giant diaper to filter the volcanic ash. That day, everybody present in the county witnessed the power of the son of the Frontera Baron and was shocked. The Count is impressed with Lloyd and thinks to keep a close eye on him till the construction was over and then give a detailed report to His Majesty the King. The second step was to make a case and to pour the cement onto and then place it in the sea, then use Hemong to one-shot the water to remove the water from the caisson. Stage 3 was to cover the bottom of the caisson with friction poles. Javier was waiting for more poles to arrive, and Lloyd seemed like he was expecting something from Javier. Javier asked him what was he seeking. Lloyd tells him that he should have a complaint like he usually does. Javier throws the hammer down and tells Lloyd that he is a knight and he should not hammer. Lloyd, as usual, tells him that he is the knight that escorts him. If he did not hammer, the person in the Baron will not be able to clear the debts. Lloyd uses his usual sentimental dialogues, and Javier has no option but to do the work. After the posts were in, now the next stage begins. Use the Bengal steel dome to build a steel frame and then finally pour in the long-awaited cement. Once the cement is hardened, dismantle the caisson, and finally, the artificial sea platform is ready. The Count is impressed by his work and asks him if the platform will be able to support the huge statue's weight. He also tells him that if it succeeds to do so, he will pay a huge amount of construction fees to him. The statue has been established, and there was a grand celebration for this achievement. The Count introduced the people to Lloyd. In this time too, to his luck, people went before Javier, thinking that he was Lloyd due to his noble looks. The Count once more laughs it off, and introduces people to the real Lloyd. At some distance, there is a huge creature in the water. As it surfaces, it is clear that it was the Giga Titan. The huge creature sees the statue of the mermaid and rushes to attack it, as if it was only one mermaid. The oblivious party guests continue revelry, while Lloyd notices Javier sensing something rapidly approaching from the ocean. Lloyd realizes with dread that disaster loom. Javier tells him that it is extraordinarily fast and has a size of at least slightly bigger than the ship at his biggest. Lloyd is really scared now. He knew what was coming. The Count asks his knight, "Does thou detect anything strange in the ocean?" The knight observes the sea and tells the Count that he does not. The Count assures Lloyd that he can trust his knight, as he was a master-level swordmaster. The Count tells him that the Gigatitans do not come this close to the shore, and there is no reason for it to attack them. Lloyd tells him that they have now created one and looks toward the statue. All of them have a very tense look, and the Count orders his men to evacuate as soon as possible. Lloyd tells Javier to take care of the anchor, as it was taking too long for them to unanchor the ship. Javier jumps out of the ship into the open water, and Lloyd throws Poton in the air for some extra help underwater. Javier uses his Mana Blast Chop to get rid of the anchor, and Lloyd uses Padang to get rid of the additional supports. As Javier chops down the anchors, he notices the Gigaton has sped up and has arrived on time. As the humongous Gigatitan surfaces, all the ships were startled, and Lloyd is sent in the air. It attacks the mermaid statue. Due to this, both Poton and the mermaid statue are sent flying. Javier arrives on time and saves Lloyd. On the other hand, the pieces of the statue fall on the coast, leading to huge damage. There was chaos everywhere. Lloyd thinks quickly and uses Hamon to save the people who are drowning using his one-shot skill. Though the Gigatitan follows the statue to secure the kill and enters the coast, Javier thinks of stopping the Gigatitan and asks Lloyd for help. But Lloyd instead tells him that they will not get into their internal affairs and tells Javier to join him and escape this mess safely. But Javier wanted to save the people from the Gigatitan. Lloyd tries to explain to him, but Javier loses his trust in him and draws his sword and leaps towards the Gigatitan. The system informs Lloyd that his approval rating of him has decreased by 5 points. Here at the coast, the townspeople are trying to resist using their cannons, but they failed due to the hard exoskeleton of the Gigatitan. The Gigatitan launches a projectile, due to which the tower was erased from its existence. It searches for the remaining mermaid statue and, as it finds it, rushes towards it, causing mass destruction in the town. While escaping, a commoner falls on the ground and was about to be crushed by the Gigatitan, but is saved by Javier. Even his Mana Blast slice bounced off, causing the Gigatitan to slip and fall on the ground. The Gigatitan is furious and uses its pincers to attack Javier, but he dodges it easily. The Gigatitan attacks Javier using projectiles. Javier, unable to block it, tries to block it using his sword, but is instead thrown away with huge force. Javier received huge damage, but he didn't want to back off as the townspeople were in danger. Lloyd was trying to escape and thinks that he has all construction-related skills that cannot be used against such a monster. But soon he realizes that he must help the people and use his Bangul as a surfing board to reach the coast as soon as possible. At the coast, Javier is trying to keep up with the monster and attacks its eyes, thinking as if they were its weak spots. But in time, the Gigatitan whips its tentacles and saves itself. Javier was about to get hit by the whip, but Haman comes to his rescue. Lloyd has finally reached the coast and is furious at the Gigatitan for destroying his cash flow. Javier thinks of it as his chance and attacks the Gigatitan in the eye with his might. But even though Javier attacked the Gigatitan in its eyes, it was of no use. Javier was confused about what he should do next to stop the beast. Even though he thought he was going to lose, he was calm as Lloyd is with him in the fight. 2.5 minutes earlier, Lloyd, with the help of Poton, surveyed the whole construction of the Gigatitan's exoskeleton. As he used his surveying skill on it, he notices that as Javier attacked the Gigatitan, all the energy migrated to a single spot. He concludes that all the energy is being absorbed in its hollow horn and then it is released. The first thing they have to do is deal with the horn. Lloyd enters the simulation mode and realizes that the spot where there's a water sac for its hydraulic claw is a weak spot. And if they can strike the area with the Mana Blast, they can surely destroy that beast. Javier asks Lloyd what they are supposed to do. Lloyd tells him in sign language that he has to cut off its horn. Javier dodges the attack from the beast and jumps into the sky. He thought that cutting the horn will do nothing to the Gigatitan, but still he will do it as he trusts his master. Javier rushes to cut the horn, but Lloyd tells him that it will be hard for him to cut the horn, even though it is hollow. Lloyd tells him that he has to use the Mana Slice, but with much more intensity. Javier was successful in creating a new skill, Mana Chainsaw, and was somewhat able to slice the horn. The Gigatitan tries to attack Javier, but it is intercepted by Podong. Finally, Javier was able to slice the horn of the Gigatitan. The Gigatitan yells in pain, and Javier lands on the ground safely, but is crushed under the humongous Gigatitan. The only thing that was able to escape was his sword. Lloyd was devastated. A few seconds earlier, we see Javier was about to get crushed by the huge Gigatitan, but is saved by Podong. For his reckless behavior, Javier gets a hold of his sword and is once again ready to fight with the Gigatitan, as he trusts his master more than anybody else here. Lloyd was continuously scanning for the outcome, which will not lead to their death. He finally is ready with a plan to beat the monster and asks Podong to be at his command. Lloyd mounts Podong and asks it to take him to the place and orders Javier to lure the beast along the coast into the woods. 15 minutes earlier, the Count was in despair for such a beast heading to the coast and is now going to destroy the whole region. He understood that his plan to drive out the beast with the statue was a total flop. Lloyd tells him that the monster is now heading to the mainland to destroy the remaining statue. He also tells him to do something. Until then, Javier and himself will buy some time. That is it for today's part. If you've enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing for the next part. Your support means a lot. Thanks for watching.